Hello, I'm StrawHatLucas, Captain of the Eternal Dawn, and welcome back to another episode of Rambling Addiction, the show where I talk and you listen. I wanted to do something kind of fun and easy this week, so tonight we will be ranking every single arc in One Piece. Before we get started, I gotta give a special shout out to the Vice Captain of the Eternal Dawn, NoChillDill, who commented this on my last Rambling Addiction episode. Stay tuned till the end to see what phrase you can comment down below for your chance to be shouted out in next week's episode. Roll that theme song.
Rambling addiction, yeah, you're hanging out with Lucas. Manga, animator, anything, alright, let's do this. Weekly is the basis, worst generation. Cooking up a feast while he's turning through the pages. Theories that he's making, from shonen to seinen. Blocked in, analyzing, using observation. Yeah, observation. Rambling addiction.
So tonight we have 32 canon One Piece arcs to make our way through. So let's get started, shall we? First up is the Romance Dawn arc. Great introductory arc. We get a lot of lore here. We get the Shellstown stuff where Luffy meets Kube and Zoro. And yeah, this is a pretty good series opener. We also get the Shanks and Luffy backstory, obviously, which gives us the origins to Luffy's Gum fruit, and of course his iconic straw hat that he carries throughout the entire series. One factor that will contribute to how I rank these arcs, though, is how I felt when I first watched the series. Being a One Piece content creator, I've reread all of these arcs multiple times, rewatched them in both sub and dub several times, but I want to give you guys an authentic ranking. So my first impressions, if I remember correctly, of Romance Dawn was that it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It didn't pull me in immediately. I've said this multiple times on streams and such like that, that One Piece, like, right out the gate did not get me. But I was interested, right? It caught my interest, and that's a good opening arc. So let's throw it in B tier. So let's move right on after Romance Dawn to the next arc, and that is Orange Town. Now, Buggy, my guy, gonna be king of the pirates. Buggy D Clown, I love him so much in current story. But as I said already, we're going off of how I felt when I first watched it. And Buggy was an absolute menace. I'm being serious. Like, I really thought he was a pretty formidable opponent, and it was one of the first other devil, I think it was the first other devil fruit we saw in the series. Also, Chow Chow, GOAT, like, let's be real, goated side character, Boodle, goated side character. And it's one of the first arcs that when I was first going through One Piece, I realized just how good Oda was at writing side characters and these interesting little backstories that they have. So I'm actually gonna put this in A tier. That is right, we're gonna put Orange Town in A tier. Syrup Village, I'm about to make some people mad. So Syrup Village, right? This is it. This was my Arlong Park, guys. And I mean that entirely. When I first watched Syrup Village, this was the arc that I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to watch every single bit of One Piece. And I'll tell you the exact moment it happened. It was when Usopp was standing on top of the hill, scared out of his minds. The Straw Hats are at the wrong hill, right? And all of the Black Cat pirates are there. They're there. And Usopp, instead of running away or anything else, stood his ground. This moment has meant so much to me that Usopp is still my third favorite Straw Hat in the entire series, even after everything. So I think it is only fair that I put Syrup Village in S tier. Now, we'll put it at the top of A, right? We'll put it at the top of A. I don't want to put it in S tier. I do think it's a good arc, but let's be real. Kuro is kind of lacking as a villain. He's known as the man with 1,000 plans who's succeeded every time he's made a plan. He's highly intelligent, blah, 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 blah. But my man feels all right. That said, it will be the gatekeeper for A tier to S tier. It will not move for the rest of this list. Next up is the Baratier arc. Sanji's introductory arc, Usopp's honeymoon arc, so much happened here. This is one of the first arcs we got to see the crew dynamic in full fold. We had 4 members at that time. We were starting to get more than just Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and it was the first arc that we got to experience Usopp as a member of the Straw Hats. And not only that, but it introduced us to our next Straw Hat, the 5th Straw Hat, Sanji. Now, current storyline, I love Sanji. Still love Sanji. Loved Sanji in this arc as well. And it showed us so much about his character with his relationship with not only Zeph, but the entire crew at the Baratier. You also get amazing moments like Zoro's fight with Mihawk. And you also get the Dawn Creek Pirates and Jin, who the entire community theorized for years and years every time someone new showed up that was. Which we did finally get to see him later in Hachinosu during Vegapunk's message, but that's neither here nor there. How did I feel about this arc when I first watched it? It was alright. I'm joking. I really enjoyed this arc. It was the first time we got a big twist in One Piece as well, where Nami betrays the crew and runs off with the Going Merry. So I'm also putting Baratier in A tier, and we're going to put it right before Orange Town, but after Serp Village, because like I said, Serp Village just holds a special place in my heart. I know that's kind of biased of me, but I'm the one ranking them. Next up is Arlong Park. I don't think anyone expected any less. No, but seriously, Arlong Park is just amazing. Like, let's be real. It is the first S tier arc in the entire story of One Piece. Like, we got so much during Arlong Park. We got Nami's amazing backstory. We got what Ginzo's windmill means. We got Usopp's fake death. We got Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy, and Usopp doing the walk to Arlong Park. And of course, the Nami help me moment. Oh my god. Zoro facing down Arlong and Arlong ripping off his bandages and saying, "What are you?" It's perfect, guys. It is one of the first perfect One Piece arcs, so of course it's going into S tier. Next up, we have Logtown. I'm sorry. No, but seriously, Logtown, while it does have some really good significance, especially later in the story when we find out about characters like Bartolomeo and the fact that Sabo may have been there, which brings up the question why he didn't recognize Luffy when Luffy was about to pass, but like, it's One Piece. But yeah, this is just kind of a C tier arc for me. Like, it was good and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. I don't think there's a One Piece arc that I didn't enjoy watching, but for me, Logtown just felt like, I don't know, if I'm being honest, it was right before the Grand Line. I was waiting so much for them to get into the Grand Line. I was just like, hurry up. I don't care that this Marine is chasing them, which, yes, I love the introduction of Smoker into Shigi. Like, that is awesome. I'm not saying that I do not enjoy this arc at all, but at the same time, I wanted them to get to the Grand Line. Next up is Reverse Mountain. Introduction of Crocus, one of the members of the Pirate King's crew. Introduction of Miss Wednesday and Mr. Nine. And not only that, but the introduction of Laboon. I'm going to be honest, though. On my first watch through, I did not enjoy this arc as much as I did on my subsequent rereads and rewatches because I knew who the pirates that left Laboon there was. Was Laboon's story sad? Yes, it was. Was it an enjoyable arc? Was Crocus not hilarious? Yes, he was. And the whole concept of the island well was very intriguing to me. And I wasn't thinking about this arc for all the theory ramifications with the island wells and everything because I was still fresh in my early days of One Piece watching. So sadly, I have to give Reverse Mountain the C tier as well, but I am gonna put it above Logtown, and I want to make sure that you guys know I do love Reverse Mountain. I think it's one of the spiciest arcs to go back and look through, even if it is only 5 chapters long, because of what I had just said about, you know, the island wells, and not only that, but looking at Crocus as a character then with what we know now. So yeah, C tier for Reverse Mountain. Next up is Whiskey Peak. This is my first D tier. Now, I hear the Zoro fanboys in the crowd screaming and crying, but Zoro defeated 100 bounty hunters here. Yes, he did. And Zoro and Luffy fought. And we got Igaram and Vivi's whole story and her joining the crew. And I love those moments. Whiskey Peak was actually the very first arc in One Piece where while I was watching it, I was like, come on, guys. Just come on. All right, awesome. Vivi's joining the crew. We're going to take her to Alabasta. Let's go. I want to see more. And it's not that I didn't enjoy those moments and enjoy watching them. It just, I wanted there to be more from the first island we see within the Grand Line. So I guess you could say I was disappointed a little bit because it's like, this is the first one. Like, we just got to the Grand Line. We saw the Twin Capes and that was it. You know what I mean? So I was ready. I was ready for more. But that brings us to what I consider the first real island of the Grand Line, Little Garden. Little Garden is one of my favorite arcs in all of One Piece. And I've said this several times before. Not only do you get the introduction of more of the Baroque Works agents, such as like Mr. 3, Mr. 5, Miss Valentine and all them, which they were in Whiskey Peak. I know Miss Valentine and Mr. Five and Miss Monday, and I'm getting carried away. They were more of a threat in Little Garden, and seeing Mr. Five in action and then Mr. Three in action, Miss Golden Week and her weird pain powers. You get to meet giants for the first time, and one of Usopp's lies come true because the giant goldfish with the giant goldfish poop that the giants were telling him about. And not only that, but you finally get to see Usopp kind of seeing the vision of his own dream right there in front of him, to be a brave warrior of the sea, like he said when he put his foot on the barrel. In meeting Dory and Brogy, he could see those aspirations fully and realize, like, this is my goal. This is where I want to go. This is where I need to be. So where am I going to put Little Garden? I'm thinking A, right? Just after Syrup Village, because I do think it's an amazing arc and I love watching it, but I don't think it's necessarily S tier. It's not a perfect arc. That said, it has so much merit and I have so much love for it. And I'm only putting an A, and I know I said, I've done this on the precedence of how I felt about it the first time I saw it, but the first time I saw it was a knockout. It was like, oh my God, I can't wait to see these characters again. I can't wait to see what happens next with Usopp's dreams and his journey. And of course, it's set up one of the best arcs in all of One Piece, which is next. So with that, I think you guys can tell that I'm putting Drum Island in S tier, even above Arlong Park as well. Not only in a present day scenario where I'm looking back on it with a more analytical gaze, it's just a perfect arc, guys. I know Wapol isn't the biggest threatening villain in the whole series, but he is a necessary nuisance. Not only that, but we get the first tease of the Blackbeard Pirates. We get the amazing scene of Luffy climbing the mountain. And of course, we get the meaning of the sakura petals blooming in winter. This is our first big emotional moment since reaching the Grand Line. And we had our first interactions with Chopper, and I want you guys to think about it in this light, because this is how I saw it when I first watched Little Garden, and that is Luffy achieved Chopper's mentor's dream so that Chopper would not feel like there was any unfinished business while he left with Luffy. What a Chad. Like, Jesus, man. That is so meaningful and so real. Like, it showed me just what kind of captain Luffy was going to be. If his crew had a goal or had something that they feel like they couldn't leave behind, he was going to make sure that that got done. And going forward, it's a trait that we see in him even to this day. So yeah, S tier for Drum Island. Next up is Alabasta. Is Alabasta S tier? That's the question I'm trying to answer right now. We get the first time of facing a warlord. We get everything with Vivi, the Nakama goodbye, the introduction to the goat Bon Calais. There's so much to love about Alabasta. That said, the dredge through the desert is kind of boring, even if it did give me one of my favorite moments between Luffy and Vivi, where they are arguing and Luffy basically tells her, let us unalive for you. Let us make the ultimate sacrifice because you're our friend. And then you have, this is one of the first arcs that we see the problem that current One Piece has, where Luffy fights a villain like 3 times before he defeats them, which past Wano we haven't seen really. I know in Egghead he didn't have a big foe to fight, but like the Gorosei, he fought him once, he didn't beat him, and they didn't really beat him, so I guess that's progress, right? But nonetheless, this is the first time we saw that problem in action, where he fought him like, what, 3 times? Yeah, in the desert, on the roof of the palace, and then underneath in the catacombs thing. So yeah, I do have my criticisms with Alabasta, but it is a phenomenal arc, is it not? So I think, even though I said Syrup Village would be the gatekeeper for A, I have to put Alabasta at the top of A. I don't think it's necessarily a perfect arc that goes into S tier, but it is a phenomenal arc. Next up is Jaya. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is going straight into B tier above Romance Dawn. I loved Jaya. Watching it, it felt like we were going towards this big, grand adventure, right? The island in the sky. What does this mean? Robin, her honeymoon arc, right? This is the first arc she is a Straw Hat. And right away, a ship falls out of the sky and we get to see it in full action, her archaeologist mindset. And then you get Cricket and his entire backstory, and I really like Bellamy the hyena. And this is before Dressrosa, obviously, but like, his character was like, oh, this guy, I want to punch him too. And Luffy, why didn't you punch him? But then we get the Blackbeard moment, which still to this day resonates through the One Piece community when Zoro and Luffy said, it's not him, it's they or them or whatever it was, setting up countless theories about what that could mean. So yeah, I think B is a solid placement for Jaya. Next up, we have Skypiea. Let's talk about Skypiea. Go to Grand Line Bound's channel after you watch this and watch his Skypiea arc review because it is amazing. But where do we put it? Now, when I first watched Skypiea, this was about the time that I started making TikToks about where I was in my One Piece journey and decided to change my name to StrawHatLucas, and now we're here. I remember a lot of people were like, oh, most people skip Skypiea on their first watch through and then go back and watch it. And I still, to this day, like, even though I've heard reasons why left and right, and I still do not understand it, because like I said about Jaya, it felt like we were going into this grand, amazing adventure. The kind of stuff that had been hyped up about the Grand Line since the East Blue, and it delivered to me. I think NL is such an intriguing villain, and he's someone that we still want to see in the story to this day. That said, the only criticism I have about this arc is this is one of the first arcs that puts Luffy in a scenario where it's like, he can't get there, so he can't fight the bad guy. Which I get why Oda had to do that, because NL is a lightning Logia. Like, obviously rubber is going to be the natural enemy to that, but still putting him in Enola and making him stay there for as long as he did really hurt the arc, in my opinion. So let's put this in A, above Alabasta. I just said Alabasta was going to be the gatekeeper for A, but like, let's be real, Skypiea is there. It's one of my favorite arcs. I've rewatched it countless times for this or that theory, or because I heard someone's new take on it, and it's just, it's golden, right? Like, it's so golden. I didn't do that on purpose. Next up is Long Ring Long Land, one of the most divisive arcs in the entire series. That's right. That's right. I'm putting Long Ring Long Land in the middle of B. So this is actually one of the only arcs I'm going to rank not on my first viewing experience. I did a series forever ago on TikTok where I ranked all the arcs, and this was dead last. This was the first series I did when I had completely caught up, right? But since then, I've rewatched the series several times and reread the series. Long Ring Long Land is going to be one of the most important arcs in the entirety of One Piece. So for me to put it anywhere besides B tier, unless higher, would be a crime to myself, and I cannot betray myself that way. Whether it be Dax Afrotel theory, which if you're not subscribed to Dax Sake, I don't know what you're doing with your life, or any of the other theories out there in the community, which I have my own, the Gear Piece theory. Go check it out on the Din Din Cushy YouTube channel, and I'll put a link in the description. It's clear that theorists have latched on to Long Ring Long Land because of a certain reason, and like I said just a few moments ago, I think it's because it's going to be retroactively one of the most important arcs in the entire series. Next up is Water 7 and Enies Lobby. I don't think those two arcs can go anywhere but S tier together, right? Because let's be real, peak. This is one of the highest peaks in all of One Piece. The Sea Train, Frankie's backstory, the entirety of Galley Law and Polly, and everything about Water 7 and the way it goes. And then it blends seamlessly into the next arc in a way that no other arcs in One Piece has. And that sets up Enies Lobby, where Luffy declares war on the world government, something that has had lasting effects until this day in the series. Anyone who didn't see me putting Enies Lobby in Water 7 in the S tier, you're not reading One Piece right. I'm joking, of course. I have no idea where else you would expect me to put them. I should probably even give them their own tier above S, but that's not really fair to the rest of the arcs. Next up is the post-Enies Lobby arc, and I'm going to be honest, guys, I'm putting this right at the beginning of C. Yes, we got the introduction to Monkey D. Garp and the reveal of Luffy's father, Monkey D. Dragon, who we found out here we had seen in Logtown. We also got Kube and Helmeppo after their training with Garp, which was awesome. Like, there was a lot of cool things in this little arc, but it was mostly set up to continue the story, right? That little bit of necessary downtime before things ramp up again. And I do love it and I do respect it, and we got that really cool moment between Luffy and Usopp as he forgave Usopp. But as I said, this was really just a setup arc to kind of give us some exposition, and Ace fighting Blackbeard, Shanks meeting with Whitebeard and warning him about Blackbeard. This was basically like, here's a bunch of new mysteries to keep you interested in the story as we go forward into this next era of One Piece. And oh, what an era it is. Speaking of the next era of One Piece, let's go on to the next arc, which is Thriller Bark, another arc that I've heard a lot of fans just don't vibe with. But I vibe with it, and we're going to put it up here right above Drum Island. Yes, go check out my rambling addiction on Thriller Bark from a couple weeks ago. I love Thriller Bark. When I first watched it, it just blew me away. The tonal shift was insane. And at first I was like, I don't know if I'll like this, but then so much funny stuff. I don't think One Piece has ever been funnier than it was on Thriller Bark. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, we've had a lot of great laughs throughout One Piece, but like that arc gave us so many funny moments. And not only that, but there's just so much set up in Thriller Bark, right? Even if you don't realize it at the time, you see Captain John, which we get to later in Impelled Down with his treasure band and everything. We get members of the Rocks Pirates, which also includes Captain John, obviously. But we also get Oars, the continent puller. We get Gecko Moria, which I know a lot of people don't like Moria, but I am a fan of his. And not only that, he has one of the best devil fruits in the entire series. We also get the queen herself, Corona, and I think that's it, right? That's all of Gecko Moria's crew. We don't need to mention, you know, the Creepy Peeper or Dr. Hogback. The only thing worse than what Dr. Hogback did to Sindri is letting down Chopper the way he did. But yeah, I really love Thriller Bark, and I love the way it ends. I love the beginning. I love the middle. Like, just the way it ends, though, with Kuma and him showing up and, you know, nothing happened. It's just peak, man. It's such a good arc, and I've never, ever, ever, ever understood why so many people shit on it. Next up is the Sabaody Archipelago. I cannot say that word. Archipelago? Archipelago. Next up is Sabaody. Now, I'm actually kind of torn on where do I want to put this. So, on my first watch through, I actually did not vibe with Sabaody until things went down at the auction house. Obviously, then it turned from a like 6 out of 10 arc to a freaking 11 to 12 out of 10 arc, right? And that kind of like, where do I place this? We get the introduction to the celestial dragons there, the supernovas. We also get into like the whole aspect behind the slave trade and the way that the celestial dragons treat the people of the world. Yeah, there's a lot of really good lore there. And then you get one of the most heartbreaking moments in the series with the separation of the Straw Hats. So where do I put Sabaody? The only answer to me, if I'm being honest, is A tier. But where in A tier? I am gonna put it below. Do I put it below or above Serb Village though? I knew this was gonna happen. I knew I would get to one arc and it was gonna be super divisive. Like Alabasta, Skypiea, I knew I was gonna put those above Serb Village, but yeah, we're gonna put Sabaody above Serb Village, but A tier nonetheless. Next up is Amazon Lily. I'm gonna be honest, on my first watch, I was not vibing with this arc at all, so we're gonna put it in C tier. I do think after subsequent rewatches and rereads that it is a very solid arc. There's a lot of good stuff there, and it's really good character moments for Luffy, and then he gets introduced personally to how things are with the Celestial Dragons through Boa. And I think it's a very important moment for Luffy, especially with what's to come in the next few arcs. But as I said, with the exception of Long Ring, Long Land, I am basing this off of the first thoughts I had when I first watched the series and not how I feel now, because if I did that on how I feel now, all of these would be in S and A tier, and I don't think that would be a very fun video. So yeah, we'll put it at the top of C, even though I do have a lot more appreciation for the arc now as a whole. Actually, I said they would all be in S and A, but I'd probably keep Whiskey Peak in D. I really just don't vibe with that. Like, I like it, but it's really short and I don't know. You know what I mean? Next up is Impelled Down. That's going to the top of A immediately. Like, oh my God. Actually, I'm going to put that in S tier. I'm going to put that above Drum Island, but not Thriller Bark. Impelled Down is just insane, right? Like, we get Bon Clay, we get Crocodile, we get everybody teaming up, we get the reveal of Jinbei. Ace is about to go to trial. He's about to get executed. So there isn't a trial. I don't know why I said that. We get Buggy. Like, it's just so good. This was the arc where I fell in love with Buggy even more. Like, at first I was like, this guy's menacing. And then obviously the things happened in Lobetown, and we saw him throughout the series here and there when we get those little update chapters or episodes. But like here, we saw Buggy in action, and that he had a very similar power to Luffy where he could gather people. And not only that, you get Bon Clay and the goat Ivankov and all of the new Comic Kingdom. Yeah, easily Impelled Down is an S tier arc, right? I would actually be surprised if anyone has a problem with me putting that in S tier. And if you do, tell me in the comments below. I love a healthy debate. Next up is Marineford, and if I'm being honest, one of the best One Piece arcs in the entire series, like to this day, right? but I don't put it above Annie's Lobby, but I would put it above Water 7. So I don't even know what to say about Marineford, right? It is the first all-out battle we see in One Piece. Like, so many people show up. We get to see the admirals on full display. We get the moments with Garp and Luffy. We get the moments with Garp and Ace. We get Ace's moments on the pedestal waiting execution, the executioner stand, sorry. We get Luffy standing up to the admirals. We get to see Jinbei in action. We get to see Whitebeard in action. We get to meet all the Whitebeard pirates like Jozu and Marco and all of the other commanders of his fleet. And we get to see the squad stuff and Sengoku, and Marineford is just amazing. Personally, I can't put it above Enies Lobby because that is my favorite arc, and Robin is my favorite Straw Hat of all time. She's my favorite character in the entire story. So I didn't have that personal connection with that arc until the death of Ace. There's no secret that I lost my brother, and him, before he passed, asking me to watch One Piece is what got me into it after his passing. So this arc definitely hits, right? It's definitely emotional. It's definitely something that was hard for me to watch and hard for me to get through on that first watch. And it holds up still to this day. I could sit down and rewatch the Marineford arc over and over again just because of how well done it is. Yeah, and next up is the post-war arc. Sadly though, I do not enjoy this arc as much as I enjoyed Marineford. I'm gonna put it at the highest of B. That's C tier. I really enjoyed moments in this arc. Seeing the Straw Hats react to Ace's passing, seeing the moments between Luffy and Jinbei as he tries to get him through this impossible traumatic experience. And those moments are amazing. And so is the ASL flashback. I do feel like, though, that the ASL flashback went on a little bit too long. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that. I just felt like it was too much, especially coming off of Ace's passing. But that said, I do think that they placed it perfectly. I know a lot of people are like, they should have done the ASL flashback before he got to Marineford so that it makes it more impactful when Ace dies, and then we get to see how much more it hurts Luffy because Sabo's also dead at this point. But I just don't think that's true. I think they placed it perfectly. I think Oda was smart to place it here because it showed us the thoughts going through Luffy's head at that moment. He wasn't only thinking about what had just happened in front of him. He was thinking about all of it, right? Every memory he had with Ace, sharing the Sakazuki cups, annoying Dodon, which, oh my god, Dodon, you're too good for this world, Dodon. But yeah, I think top of B is a solid placing for it. Even if I had problems with it a little bit, it's just enough to keep it out of A tier. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I am going to put it in A tier, but I'm going to put it at the end. I'm actually going to move Orange Town down to B tier. So that is the entirety of the pre-time skip. And I've been recording for 42 minutes. Why do I keep doing these long episodes? So now we are in the post-time skip, which only has 9 arcs so far. So we are in the home stretch now, guys. Return to Sabaody. Bottom of C. Yes, it was cool seeing all of the Straw Hats come back and step foot on Sabaody and defeat the pacifistas like it was nothing, and scare Sentamaru and the fake Straw Hats and all that. It was cool, right? Like, it was a cool thing to see, and it was a really good show of their powers, but we still didn't see fully like what they were capable of. I don't know. There was just something missing from this arc, especially with how hyped up it was for me personally, because everyone was like, just wait till the time skip, just wait till the time skip. And obviously people wouldn't spoil me, but they were like, wait till the time skip. So yeah, definitely an interesting arc, but I can't put it a bit higher than the bottom of C. Every arc that comes after it in that tier, I enjoy watching more than Return to Sabaody. That said, it's definitely not as bad as Whiskey Peak for me. Next up is Fishman Island, which this choice is actually going to shock a lot of people. I'm putting at the very top of A. Before we got to Egghead, Fishman Island actually had my favorite flashback in the entire story. Seeing Queen Otahime, and not only her, but everything that happened with Fisher Tiger and everything that was going on with Shirahoshi and my boys Fukaboshi, Monboshi, and my favorite side character in all of One Piece, Ryoboshi, like seeing them dance for their sister to keep her, like, get me emotional right now. And even Hody Jones, I know he is a lackluster villain, but he's not supposed to be a frightening villain. He is the reverse of Fisher Tiger. Yes, Fisher Tiger too could not trust humans, and to the extent that Jinbei could, where he would give them their his blood, but Jinbei only learned that because of what happened with Fisher Tiger. Hody, like Arlong, saw Fisher Tiger's actions as weak. He saw Arlong's way as the appropriate way, and it's a really good lesson on the extent of that generational hatred and what it can do to someone and how it can corrupt their worldview. I really think that Oda was truly in his bag on Fishman Island, and I will argue that until I am blue in my face. Next up is Punk Hazard, which is going right at the bottom of B. I do enjoy Punk Hazard. It was awesome to see Law again. It was cool. The whole Virgo fight, the Monet fight with Zoro. Seeing the dragon, meeting Kinemon, who's one of my favorite characters, and Momo as well. Seeing Smoker again post-time skip. Like, there's a lot of cool things that happened in this arc, but it really felt like the whole arc was to set up everything with not only Doflamingo, but Kaido as well. Yeah, so Punk Hazard really does. It just feels like a big setup arc to me, and that's okay. That's okay that I feel like that. Going further after subsequent rewatches and rereads, I do have a lot more interest in Punk Hazard, especially with what we got in Egghead, and the more we know about Vegapunk. It's definitely an interesting reread. Does it move up higher on my list? Probably, but still in the same tier. I'd probably put it below Long Ring Longland if I was going off of what I feel now. That said, on my first watch through, it really did have me at points being like, oh, what's going on with this Caesar Clown guy? Like, what's going on with this? But yeah, I do enjoy Punk Hazard. And it gave us one of my favorite Chopper moments where he tells those kids that Luffy will be king of the pirates and that his captain's the kind of man that can save them. Choice Chopper moments. Choice Chopper moments. Next up is Dressrosa, which is going to be the top of B. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be the top of B. I love Dressrosa now, right? Like, going back, rewatching it, I would put this easily in the A tier or even the S tier, at the end of the S tier. But on my first watch through, this is actually what made me stop watching the anime. The Rebecca flashback was played through so many times. The way they set up the whole Sabo reveal in the anime compared to how they do it in the manga, which I know it's pretty one-to-one, but there's some like filler scenes and stuff that Toei throws in there. Not like filler, but you know what I mean, like filler, like padding out the time scenes. Yeah, it's just the way that Toei handled Dressrosa, and I know it's because they caught up to the manga, but like just the way they handled that was not done well at all. It would have done some good to take a small like filler break after Punk Hazard, which I know they did the Caesar retrieval arc in the anime, but it was only like 3 or 4 episodes, if I remember correctly. I don't know, I skipped it. But I feel like if they would have done a filler that was like maybe even like 15, 20 episodes, like that probably would have given them enough time to, you know, let Dressrosa finish out so that they could adapt it at a better pace than what we got in the anime. Like I said, I do love this arc and respect it and really enjoy Doflamingo as a villain. Like, I hate that guy a lot. Like, I hate him. I've said it on stream. I hate Doflamingo so much, but he is such a good written character because I hate him so much. Like, right? I hate him so much because he is such a good written character. He is a good bad boy. Next up is Zoe, which is gonna go right below Dressrosa in B. I liked Zoe. It was really cool. A lot of lore drops in Zoe. A lot of really cute moments with the Straw Hats, especially when they were like protecting Robin. But let's be real. Best twist in One Piece history, right? And that almost pushes it to A tier, if I'm being honest. That twist with Raizudano is safe, right? Like, that in itself almost pushes Zoe up to A tier. That said, after the burnout I had from Dressrosa when I first was going through One Piece, and this was the first arc I read in the manga, right? So reading that twist was insane to me. So I have to give that credit where credit is due, but I will say that this also kind of felt like setup for Whole Cake towards the end of the arc. You know, we got Pedro and everything. That said, like, I cannot express enough how good that twist is. I cannot. Going off current day, I would probably put this in A as well. But off of first impressions, I have to put it in B. Next up is the arc where we get to see the love of my life, Charlotte Linlin, Big Mom, in full action for the first time. This is going right to the top of A. There's no other point where I could put it. If I'm being honest, I would put Whole Cake Island in S tier if not for the chase at the end. It is much better to read that than watch it, but even on the read, it felt like it was going on way too long. That said, we get a lot of good stuff in Whole Cake. We get the Katakuri fight. We get Brooks' moments with Big Mom where he stands up to her not once, not twice, but like 3 times. We get Pedro's sacrifice, one of the most touching moments in the entire series. And we get Jinbei officially joining the crew when Luffy says, "I am your captain now. I'll see you in Wano. Come at any cost." Oh, one of the most peak moments in all of One Piece. That quote itself has such lasting effects in the community that people still to this day, when someone they know starts One Piece, say, "I will see you in Wano, come at any cost." Yeah, it's just a peak arc, man. Just a peak arc. I think that's a solid place for Whole Cake Island to end on, right? Next up is the Reverie arc, which is going to be the top of C tier for me. The Reverie, looking back on it now with what we know of it, S tier, right? Like if you take in everything that actually happened at the Reverie, S tier, S tier, S tier. But if you go back to that arc just as it is, top of C, top of C. There's really nothing else. Like, it was kept vague on purpose, and we did get a lot of cool setup in it, but once again, this is basically just a setup arc, and we don't even know the full extent of the setup until we get to Egghead. Yeah, even now, on several rereads and everything, I still only put the Reverie at the top of C. I'm just gonna be real about that. Next up is Wano Kuni, or the Wano Country arc. This is the real brass tacks here, guys, because I don't know if I should put it below Marineford or ahead of Marineford. I caught up at 10:49, right when the fight between Luffy and Kaido officially ended. That was the first weekly chapter I read of One Piece. So Wano Kuni has such a special place in my heart, and not only that, it's packed. It is packed with characters, with action, with emotional moments. Just thinking about all the side characters and how things have went for them, and thinking about Otama, and thinking about the way Kaido treated Oden, and finding out Oden's journal, and finding Yamato, and finding out that he believes he's Kazuki Oden, and finding out that it's so much, right? Like the Roger flashback alone, like, oh my god. Not only that, but then you get Roof Piece and everything that happens there. Gear 5, right? Something that changed everything we understood about One Piece. The only reason I'm not putting this above Enies Lobby is personal preference. I think though, from a story point standpoint, Wano Country is a better arc than Enies Lobby. I just personally enjoy Enies Lobby more. And that brings us to the first arc of the final saga in One Piece, Egghead, which has just ended, and we are now heading to a new arc, which we all believe is elbaf, but at the time of recording, there's only 2 chapters out, and we have not even got confirmation that that's where they are right now. So, where am I putting Egghead? It's going at the top of S. That is right, Egghead has become my favorite arc, and this is not recency bias. Yes, this was the first arc that I read with the community and but I just did Rambling Addiction last week on Egghead and how impactful it is because it changed everything we knew about the story. This is the beginning of the end, everybody. Egghead is the arc that started to deliver on some of the things we didn't know. We got a whole Joy Boy flashback, y'all. We got Emmett, the giant robot. We got Vegapunk. We got so much in Egghead. And that's only the stuff that happened on Egghead without even touching about the Gorosei and everything that happened there. So I think top of S is the only place I can put this, as I officially state that this is my favorite arc in all of One Piece. After rereading it, after experiencing it week to week, nothing to me will ever come close to the experience I had that first time reading Egghead. Hey guys, if you made it this far in the video, wow, I did not mean to record as long as I did, but that's okay. I had fun doing this. I really enjoyed ranking every arc with you guys. But in closing, this was all just my opinion and something I wanted to do for fun and to kind of take it easy this week. Because, you know, life be hard sometimes, y'all. But yes, I've been StrawHatLucas, Captain of the Eternal Dawn. I hope that you guys did enjoy watching it, and if you made it this far, make sure you comment down below Lucas is crazy for putting Syrup Village in A tier to get a chance to be shouted out in next week's video. Alright guys, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, do all of those YouTube things that I remind you to do every single week. But more importantly than anything else in this world, come here. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.